Rise and shine, sleepyheads, my favorite game is about to begin. Terrified because I had no idea where I was or who was speaking, and when I tried to sit up, the whole room spun so hard, but I didn't know why. And when my vision got steady, I saw a room with gray walls and cameras in every corner, no windows, and 5 strangers. There was a man in doctor scrubs whose hands were trembling badly, a pregnant woman anxiously biting her fingernails, and a big man with broad shoulders shouting at a metal door, "Let me out of here!" And then my heart dropped, because there was a little girl sobbing in the corner with 2 messy black braids. It looked exactly like my little sister Gia. It had to be her. I dragged myself across the floor toward her and pulled her into my chest and hugged her tight and sobbed out, "Gia, Gia, I'm here. I'm right here.
My name isn't Gia."
But then she looked up at me with brown eyes when Gia's were blue, and my heart sank because it wasn't Gia at all. I whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were my little sister." And her lip trembled, and she quietly said, "I want my mommy." I felt bad for her, but just sat back on the floor in shock, and that's when I noticed the smudgy purple flower Gia had drawn on the back of my hand that morning before I left for work. My heart hurt, because that flower meant Gia was waiting for me at home, so I decided right there that I was getting back to her no matter what. That's when a red countdown screen appeared high on the wall. 25 minutes. So here's the bad news. You've all been poisoned, and that clock you're staring at, that's how long you've got before it kills you. I gasped and started panicking for my life, but then he said, "The good news is there's an antidote hidden somewhere in this building." And I almost sighed a breath of relief.
No, this like is so random. Like you got him, a 9-year-old, a teenage girl looking at, and like a middle-aged man.
The voice continued. But don't get excited now, because there's only one antidote, so you all have to decide who walks out of here alive. I balled my hands into fists as I decided that I was getting out of here before the timer hit 0, but that's when I grabbed my head because the poison was eating away at my brain. That's when the big man gruffly said, "Listen up, I've got a wife and 2 kids at home, and I'm the only one putting food on the table, so that antidote's mine." My heart raced, because if he got the antidote first, Gia was losing her brother tonight, and I couldn't let that happen. The little girl pressed herself against my side and cried, "But I want my mommy. Where's my mommy?" Then the doctor jabbed his finger into the big man's chest. "You don't get to claim it just like that. Everyone in this room has somebody waiting for them." The big man shoved his hand off his chest. "I don't care. My kids need me home, and that's the end of it." The pregnant woman yelled back with her hand on her belly, "And what about my baby? You think your kids matter more than mine?" The big man clenched his fist and looked at both of them like he was deciding which one to deal with first. But the countdown had already dropped to 23 minutes, so if we didn't start looking for the antidote now, we were going to die here. So I got off the floor and got between them. "Knock it off. We need to find the antidote first, and we figure the rest out together." The big man took a step toward me and roughly asked, "Who died and made you boss?" My hand was sweating because he looked seconds away from punching me, but the doctor and pregnant woman knew my plan was their only shot at survival. So the doctor said, "He's right, we're wasting time," and the pregnant woman nodded. The big man's jaw tightened, furious that he didn't get his way, but I turned away from him because every second we stood here was a second closer to dying. "Let's split up and check every room. We've got 21 minutes. We split up through the 4 doorways leading off the main room, and I ended up checking the storage closet with the doctor and the little girl. The doctor said, "Whoever did this wouldn't make this easy. Start tearing things open." But then he looked terrified as he struggled to open a jammed drawer because his hands were trembling badly. I walked over and opened it for him, and he muttered, "Thanks." We quietly searched next to each other, but my heart was pounding hard because every him to ease my nerves a bit. "Who do you have waiting for you at home?" He gripped the edge of the counter, and his eyes filled with tears. "My fiancé. We're supposed to get married in 2 weeks." I told him I was sorry.
Dude, stop ruining people's lives. You get so tired. Marriage to get to gang. What? Stop. Just no.
And asked him what she was like, and he let out a small laugh. "She's the love of my life. If I don't make it out of here, she's going to think I abandoned her at the altar, and she's going to be crushed." A tear ran down his face. "I can't do that to her." I felt so bad for them that for a second I wanted him to make it out so they could get married. And then he went back to searching with more urgency. "That's why I'm going to find the antidote. For her." That's when I felt a small tug on my shirt and looked down to see the little girl pointing up at the top shelves with tears in her eyes. "I can't reach those. Can you help me?" Her braids fell over her shoulders, and for a second, I saw Gia standing in front of me, asking me to grab cereal off the top shelf. So I told her, "Of course, come here." And I picked her up under her arms and lifted her up to the top shelf. She started pushing things around looking for the antidote, and her body was trembling from the poison. But she didn't say anything because she was trying to be brave. After a minute, she quietly, "Right," and I smiled. "You're doing perfect." But I looked over at the countdown, and it was already at 18 minutes, so we really needed to hurry up. That's when the big man stomped into the storage closet and started yanking drawers open.
That's as long as this video has left. Yeah, to literally how long this video has left. It's like, in like a few minutes after, we're just gonna be chilling, doing stuff.
Open with sweat running down his face, muttering, "Saturday, Saturday," and I didn't get why. Then the little girl gasped and clung to me. "He's scary. I don't like him." I quickly pulled her into my chest so she couldn't see him and quietly said, "You're okay. I'm not gonna let him hurt you." The big man looked at us and said, "Only one of us is walking out of here. Remember that."
Selfish.
I got nervous because it was clear he was going to fight for the antidote, and then he stomped off into another room. The little girl looked up at me with tears in her eyes, and her voice cracked when she asked, "So I won't see my mommy?" My throat closed up because I didn't know how to answer her, but I pulled her back into my chest and told her, "Don't listen to him. You're gonna see your mommy. We just need to find the medicine." She nodded, but I didn't even believe what I said. I set her back down on the floor, and we got back to searching. I grabbed a small container from one of the lower shelves, and before I could open it, a wave of dizziness hit me so hard I had to grab the shelf to keep from falling. I gulped anxiously because the poison was getting worse, but we weren't getting close to finding the antidote. The little girl saw me struggling and reached up. "I can do it." I gave it to her and noticed my purple flower getting more smudged. And I told myself the first thing I was doing when I got home was letting Gia draw a new one. But then the little girl looked inside and frowned. "It's empty." My heart dropped, but I forced a smile and said, "That's okay. You did really good. You're helping us a lot." And her face lit up. But then she started coughing really hard, and her face went pale, and her little legs gave out. I caught her before she hit the floor, and we both slid down to the ground together. My heart was racing because she was getting sicker.
Her and Gia can be best friends. Yes, they can be twins that were never twins and never were identical. I mean, he thought that was Gia somehow.
Fast. Just rest for a second, okay? I'm gonna stay right here with you. She rested her head against my arm and quietly said, "I want my bunny. He always
you got a little something right there, little song.
Makes me feel safe." I talked to distract her from the pain. "What's his name?" "Mr. Peanut," she said. And when I told her that was a silly name, she giggled, but it quickly turned into another cough, and it worried me. But my worry got worse when I saw the countdown at 16 minutes. My stomach twisted because I needed to be searching for the antidote to get back to Gia, but I couldn't leave the little girl alone either. But that's when the doctor walked over to us. "There's nothing else in here. We have to check the other rooms." I pushed myself off the floor on shaky legs and lifted the little girl up to her feet, and we headed into the next room to keep searching. The pregnant woman was already in there opening cabinets, but she was struggling to bend down and check the lower ones because of her belly. So I told the little girl,
"There's two people." Oh, it's like, oh no, but the newborn would even know. Not even a newborn, it's like a fetus, bro. It's like, it would even know. It would even know. But also, who knows, though? Bro, hopefully all of them can escape, bro. All of them can need to escape. Like, all of them. Yeah. It doesn't matter how they act. That old man, it doesn't matter how they act, but still all of them need to escape.
Girl to start checking the drawers on the other side of the room, and then I walked over to the pregnant woman and told her, "I'll check the low ones. You can check the higher cabinets." She let out a relieved breath and said, "Thank you." I opened the...
Maybe if someone finds it, they'll be like, you need it more. Or there was or some people will start fighting for it. But I feel like either her, him, the doctor, yes. All of them have a good reason, honestly. I mean, his reason is just to see his sister. And hers is just to see his mom. But he has the other guy has a whole family. The other guy's gotta get married. So they both have better reasons to make it out. But also, they're like the youngest can have that too, but they never experience it. Not good enough yapper.
Lower cabinets, and she checked the high ones while holding her belly, and I asked, "How far along are you?" She rubbed her belly. 7 months. I'm naming her Connie, after my mom. I told her, that's a pretty name.
Yeah,
And
only
her
if you get
eyes
out.
filled with tears.
Only if you get
my
out.
mom's been sick for a while now, cancer, and this baby's the only thing keeping her holding on. If I don't make it out of here, she's never gonna get to meet her. I softly said, Connie's lucky to have a mom like you. And she gave me a small smile. Thank you. That means a lot. I felt a little happy that I could comfort her, and then we went back to searching. But we didn't find anything, and the countdown had dropped to 15 minutes, so we rushed to the next room. But the big man stomped past us and started ripping every cabinet open, muttering, Saturday. I can't miss Saturday. Saturday's his birthday. I got him a bike. I gotta be there. My heart broke for him, because that's what he'd been muttering this whole time, and now I couldn't even be mad at him for fighting so hard for the antidote. The 5 of us started ripping through every drawer and cabinet.
Yeah, I'm gonna point out who actually has a reason. Watch my mouse. He has a reason to get out. Actual good reason. Good reason. These 3 have a good reason. All these 3. They 2 reasons aren't really strong, so yeah.
Because we all had someone waiting for us at home, and after a couple of minutes, the little girl opened a cabinet in the back and pulled out a small glass vial, and she turned to everyone asking, "Is this the medicine?" My heart actually stopped for a second because that was...
Imagine being able to build an app. with
Oh
your
my,
name.
it's okay. No,
Just
don't
like
show it
thinking
to everybody.
Meet Base
But
44.
no, that
a
guy's
complete
tackling
AI
you, bro.
creation platform.
You're getting football
Describe what you
slammed.
want.
was our way out, but then I watched everyone's reactions to the vial and realized we all wanted it. The doctor tightened his jaw. The pregnant woman's hand went to her belly, determined to save her baby, and the big man's eyes locked onto that vial like nothing else in the room existed. That's when everyone moved at once. The doctor crouched down in front of the little girl with tears running down his face and held out his ring finger to her. "Sweetheart, look at my ring. It's pretty, right?" The little girl sniffled and nodded slowly. "It's really pretty." "Yeah, it is. My fiance, she's really pretty too, and she's waiting for me. You want to help me get back to her, right? Just give me the medicine." I got so mad I grabbed him by the back of his scrubs and yanked him away from her, yelling, "Are you seriously manipulating a little girl right now?" We stumbled back, and the pregnant woman immediately rushed at the little girl from the other side, sobbing, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. My mommy's been waiting her whole life to meet my baby, so I can't die here." I let go of the doctor and shoved her away from the little girl. "Stop it. She's a child. Are you all out of your minds?" And that's when the big man stepped forward, his face
the
wet
baby
with
can't really,
tears.
it wouldn't even know. It's not even conscious yet. It's still be
My
developing.
body filled with dread when he roared, "I told you that antidote was mine," and charged straight for us. I threw myself in front of the little girl to protect her, but the big man slammed into both of us so hard, we crashed
And
back
then
into
no one
the
gets it,
cabinets,
and
and the
it's
vial flew straight out of her
smashes.
hand. Everything moved in slow motion, and I couldn't
But is
breathe
that glass
because that
or
was
no?
our only way
Or
out, and it was
plastic?
falling
That's
right under
glass.
our noses.
That's
The
glass.
doctor dove forward. The pregnant
Bro,
woman screamed and lunged
yeah,
with
none of
both
y'all
hands
get it,
out, and the
losers.
big man stumbled
Good-
trying to catch
goodbye.
it, but the glass vial hit the concrete and shattered into 100 tiny pieces, and the clear
Yo,
liquid
drink that.
splattered across
Drink
the
that.
floor. The room went dead silent,
Just
except
straight
for
up.
the
That's
sound of
straight
the
up just
countdown
water.
ticking down to 11 minutes. And we all stood there, frozen,
Wait,
staring
is this
at
a
what
test?
we'd just done.
No, this
My
has to be a
legs gave
test.
out, and I dropped to the floor, devastated because I knew I was never seeing Gia again. Then the voice came over the speakers with a long, mocking
Jamie.
laugh. "Oh, that was incredible. All that fighting just to break the only thing keeping you alive. Congratulations.
Keeping
you just
you
killed
alive.
each other."
Then
The
it's
big
one.
man dropped to his knees and just pulled
You
a folded photo
won.
out of his wallet with shaking hands. I could see it was 2 little boys and a woman, and he muttered, "I'm not gonna be there Saturday, buddy. Daddy's not gonna make it." Seeing him cry made my chest ache, and then I saw the pregnant woman sink to the floor and pressed her hands against her belly and started talking to it. "Connie, baby, I'm so sorry. Mommy's so sorry. Grandma was gonna love you so much. She's been waiting for you her whole life." I had to look away from her because I couldn't watch a mother apologize to her baby for dying before she got to meet her. The doctor was also crying and playing with his
And I'm-
engagement ring, whispering his
And
fiance's
Braylon was
name
also
over
crying.
and over. The little girl tugged at my shirt, and tears were streaming down her
It's
face
all your
when she
fault.
asked, "Are we gonna die?" I dropped down to my knees in front of her and pulled her into the
No.
tightest hug, sobbing hard, and I felt her little arms wrap around my neck and
Yeah,
her
of course you
braids
could
pressed
feel it.
against the side of my face.
don't have to
And for a
describe every
second, it
single
actually
motion,
felt like
every
I was
single
hugging
action
Gia
it did.
goodbye. But then the little girl started coughing badly, and when I let go, there was blood all over her mouth, and the pregnant woman started moaning and clutching her stomach harder
Whoa,
while the doctor
relax,
collapsed
guys.
onto his
Whoa.
side, gasping for air. I clutched my heart because it felt like it was being squeezed, but I ignored the pain and crawled over to the puddle and stared at it because we were so
Where's the
close.
glass, though?
I whispered, "I'm sorry, Gia. I'm so sorry." Because in 9 minutes I would be dead and she wouldn't even know. But then I saw the vial's label, and my heart happily skipped a beat because it said Antidote 1 of 2 in black ink. I got up and held up the wet piece of label. "Everyone get up. There's another antidote in here. Look." The doctor's voice came out hoarse. "That's just a label. It doesn't mean anything. Just give up." But the big man wiped
can you
blood
read?
off his lip and dragged himself upright, using the wall for support. "I'm
What
not
is all
dying in
that?
here. My son's birthday is on
sweating?
Saturday. If there's a chance
is
there's
all
another
like
way
that?
out, I'm taking it." The pregnant woman looked at him with a hint of courage she didn't have a second ago, and she pushed herself off the floor too. The doctor exhaled hard through his nose and also got up, muttering, "Fine, but if this is a wild goose chase, I swear to God." And he stumbled toward one of the 4 doorways without finishing the sentence. I helped the little girl up to her feet and she asked, "So I will go home to my mommy?" I nodded slowly and said yes, even though I didn't know if it was true, but I didn't want to break my promise to her. We all split up again to search rooms we
okay,
hadn't
you can-
searched
you-
yet,
you can
but my
watch your
lungs felt like they were
spectator
filling
mode.
with
You can-
something
that's always
thick,
up.
and I had to
You can always watch your spectator mode. That's always an option, you know. Come on, try it out.
stop every few steps to catch my breath. And then I checked the countdown again, and it was at 7 minutes, and I knew if we didn't find that second vial soon, we were all dying in here. But I continued to drag myself down the long, narrow hallway because Gia was waiting
course
for
it
me.
has to be
At the
down
end
there.
of the hallway was a small
Why is this
storage
place so
room with a
big?
glass vial and syringe sitting on a table in the back. My heart jumped in my chest because that was my way back to Gia, and I almost ran toward it. But that's when the big man stumbled in
drink
through
that
the
right
door on
now.
the other side
Yo.
of the room. He looked angry
Yes,
when he saw me, but then
smash
his
it.
eyes locked onto the table and his whole body went rigid,
Stab
and
him
I
with
knew
it.
I had to act fast because we only had 5 minutes left. I held up my hands. "Do anything stupid. We promised we'd figure this out together." He shook his head with tears already in his eyes. "It's not stupid.
Yeah, who wants to
I
figure it out?
promised my
Just,
boy I'd be
like,
there
if
for his
who wants to figure it out? There's gonna be let down. Oh no, you're not getting this. No, that's I can't. Yeah, that would be bad. I don't really want to think about just having to figure it out who's gonna get it. And it turns out it's not gonna be me.
birthday. His shoulders dropped forward an inch, and I watched him so closely my eyes started to burn because I had no way
It's
of
okay,
knowing
you
when he
have
was
like
going to
5
make a
years
run
left.
for it. But a few seconds later,
like
he
20
lunged
years
towards
left,
the
bro.
table, and I ran after him. I tackled him, and we both dropped to the concrete floor. But even with the poison killing us both, he was still stronger, so he pushed me off and got up. He stumbled toward the table and grabbed the vial and the syringe, and I was going to get up, but that's when another wave of poison hit me, and my whole body went heavy, and I couldn't move. Tears were streaming down my face as I watched him push the needle into the vial, and with shaking hands, fill the syringe with the
Please tell me
antidote.
it's fake.
Every part of me was begging my body to move because Gia couldn't lose me, but my body stayed still, so I shouted, "Please, I have a sister. She's only 7. She needs me." But he was already lifting the syringe over his thigh, sobbing, "I'm sorry, my boy needs his dad." I dug my nails into the concrete and forced myself off the floor
everyone
screaming
has, like,
because
a-
I wasn't
like a
letting
nice
Gia lose her
reason,
brother.
but
I grabbed his leg
some
and
more
yanked
than
as hard
others.
as I could. He crashed down, and I jumped on top of him to get the syringe from him. We got tangled up, and he was holding the syringe in his fist, trying to push it down into his own thigh. But I grabbed his wrist with both hands
No,
and
give it
tried
to
to
the-
pull it back up. He was crying
He-
so
at
hard
least
he could barely get the words
at least he's
out.
not trying to put it into
Please,
himself.
just let me go home. Please. I shouted back through my own tears. "I have a sister. I have a sister." But then he plunged
Wait,
the syringe
wait.
straight down between us, but we both stared at each other horrified, because when we looked down at our thighs, the needle was in my
Oh.
thigh and the antidote was in me. I got off him and took the syringe out of my thigh, feeling relieved because Gia wasn't losing me tonight. But when I looked at the big man, his eyes were filled with tears, and I instantly felt guilty. He slammed his fist into the concrete next to him hard enough to split his knuckles open.
Hey,
and then
he
his
found
voice
it
came
square-
out broken.
fair and
Tell my
square.
boy I tried. Tell him his dad got him a bike for his birthday, and I tried to be there on Saturday. I told him I would because that was all I had left to give him, and then I pulled myself up using the table and stumbled toward the door.
No.
I entered the main room, and
Yo.
everyone was already there,
Yo, I
sitting
hear
against
it
the
turn
walls
orange.
with blood on their
No,
mouths
this
and
is
gray
pale.
skin.
It's
The
actually-
countdown
yeah, it's so
said we had
pale.
1 minute, but it didn't even matter anymore. The doctor rasped out, "Did you find it? Did you find another one?" And the pregnant woman stood up looking hopeful. The little girl looked at me with trusting eyes, and I had to look away from all of them, feeling ashamed, but I forced myself to look them in the eyes and said, "The big man accidentally injected me. The antidote's already inside me. I'm so sorry." The doctor's eyes widened in fear, and he let out a broken
Oh, you
chuckle.
look a little
"I'm
bit
not gonna
blue."
make it to the wedding." The pregnant woman started talking to her baby again. "I'm sorry, Connie. I'm so sorry." The little girl walked up to me on shaky
pregnant
legs and
woman and
grabbed
a
my
child
hand
is
and looked up
actually-
at me
is
and quietly
outrageous.
said, "It's okay. Gia needs you." I started sobbing because I didn't deserve her being okay with this, and then the big man stumbled in, dragging himself along the wall for support, and that's when the voice came back laughing hard. "Oh, that was the best one yet. You couldn't have written it better if you tried. Congratulations to our winner." My chest felt heavy because I
It
didn't feel
turned out
like
it
a
was all
winner.
staged
But then
and fake,
4
right?
red sniper
Right?
dots appeared on 4 foreheads.
Yo.
One on the doctor's forehead, the pregnant woman's, the big
No,
man's.
no, that can't be a sniper, right? That has to be camera. They're recording, right? It's a joke, not real snipers. Okay.
And the little girls. My breath got
Hers
caught
is,
in
like,
my
so
throat from
braggart,
the
like,
realization that the
clear,
little girl was going to die,
smooth, clear
and then everything
circle.
around me slowed down. I felt my
Where they even
legs
coming
push off
from?
the concrete before my brain caught up, and the air around me went thick like I was running through water. I could hear my own voice screaming from somewhere far away. No, she's a kid. She's just a kid." But my body
Tackles
was
her for no
moving too
reason.
slow. The dot stayed on her forehead, and her little eyes were still looking up at me like she was waiting for an answer. I wasn't going to push her out of the way in time. I wasn't going to make it. But then I tackled her onto the floor as 4 gunshots cracked through the air at once.
Oh, I did
The
not know that was
doctor,
gonna
the pregnant woman,
happen.
And the big man's bodies
No, I thought they were like joking and all. No, actually, why did you stand there? Huh? Dot? My forehead? Huh? Like, what are you doing?
up to the concrete floor,
Okay.
but I could hear the little girl breathing. I felt the air
Oh,
rush
no.
back into my
And
lungs
your
and I
forehead
sobbed.
too?
"You're okay. Oh my God, you're okay. You're okay." But then she coughed again, and blood landed on me,
Doesn't
and my
matter,
face
Death
went
Eater,
pale
like,
because I forgot about
a
the poison.
baby.
Her little body started going limp in my arms, and I quickly sat down on the floor
Yeah,
and
that-
cradled
no,
her in my
not to
lap.
die a slow,
"Hey,
painful
hey,
death. Yeah.
stay with me, okay?
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yes.
Just stay with me." She looked up at me with her tired eyes and quietly said, "Can you tell me a bedtime story? My mommy tells me one whenever I'm scared."
Oh no, bedtime story too. Yeah, that's true. I'm afraid that's gonna be the last bedtime story on Earth.
I was so devastated I couldn't
Bedtime
find the
story's
words, but if this
insane.
was Gia's, I mean the little girl's last request, I had to try. So I took a shaky breath and said, "Once upon a time there was a brave little princess, and she lived in a castle with her stuffed bunny, and her bunny would protect her from any monsters that tried to get her. She smiled with blood on her teeth, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek so I wouldn't break down in front of her."
Yeah.
She said,
No. His story literally survives everything. Everything. Hey, you know, like, at least don't let try this, bro. Bro, the eyes though. Yo, I think a little lazy eye right here.
just like me and my bunny. I nodded and stared up at the ceiling because I was barely holding myself together. "Yeah, just like you and your bunny, and the princess was never scared because her bunny protected her, right?" I waited for her answer, and my pulse quickened when I didn't get one. It took everything in me to look down at her, and I saw her eyes were still looking up at me, but there was nothing behind them anymore. But I refused to believe it, and I shook her gently and asked about her bunny, but she didn't move, and I couldn't deny it after that. The little girl who held my hand and trusted me died in my arms. I gently closed her eyes and let out a broken sob, and I kept whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," because I
Wait, it's
promised
fake,
her
right?
she'd see her mommy.
It's
and
fake,
I'd
they're
lie
all
right to her
paid
face.
actors.
I slammed
They're all
my
paid
fist into
actors.
the concrete and my bones cracked, but I didn't care. I looked up at the cameras and screamed, She was a kid. She was just a kid. Why her? Why did you take her? But no one answered me. That's when the countdown on the wall hit 0 and the door at the front of the room clicked open, allowing me to leave, but I couldn't let go of the little girl. I held her for as long as I could, but eventually I forced myself to lay her down gently on the floor. I gently brushed her braids out of her face one last time and stood up with all the strength I had left.
Stranger
I fell
danger.
into the wall, but I used everything to limp towards the light. But just as I stepped out, I heard the speaker. "Congratulations, Jackson. I'm glad it was you." My eyes widened because he knew my name this whole time.
Yeah, it had to be him because it's all part of a reality show, right? Yeah, of course he's glad it was him because the rest of them paid actors. You know what I mean? All I'm trying to say. Yeah.
And none of this had been random. I felt my fists clench. He was still toying with me after he killed innocent people, but I heard, "There, someone's coming out." I looked up in shock and saw police cars and an ambulance lined up across the parking lot, and 2 officers were running up to me. One of them asked, "Sir, are you okay? Sir!" They grabbed me, yelling for medics. "Where are the others?" But my eyes filled with tears. "It's just me. I'm the only one." I saw his face go pale, but they rushed me over to the ambulance. "We need to hurry." They put me in the back
You're a
of
little
it,
bit too late,
but that's when
buddy.
a woman walked up to me crying really hard.
that the wife?
"Mister, my daughter was in there. Is she coming out?" I didn't know who she was talking about, but then my
What do you-
eyes
what do you
widened when she
mean?
pulled out a stuffed bunny from her purse. The same bunny the little girl kept asking for. She gets scared easily, so I brought her bunny. "She'll be right out, won't she?" I started sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe, and the mom instantly realized her daughter was dead, and she dropped to her knees, bawling her eyes out. Then a little boy behind her said, "Mommy, so Daddy's not gonna be at my birthday?" He heard everything, and my heart stopped when I saw 2 boys and their mom,
bro.
the same ones from the big man's picture. His mom covered her mouth and started crying, and I forced my legs to
You guys
walk
are a little
over,
bit
but
too
the
late
medic
to the
yelled,
party, you know.
"Sir, we need to get you to the hospital." But I kept walking because I had a promise to keep to the big man. I knelt down to them. "Your daddy wanted me to tell you something." They looked at me with curious eyes. "What did Daddy say?" "He got you guys a bike for your birthday on Saturday. He tried really hard to bring it home to you. He loved you 2 so much." They started crying, and their mom dropped down and pulled
At worst
both of
to know,
them
I
into
thought
her
he had a
chest,
no.
sobbing.
I thought he
"Sir,
know.
we have to go now." I stood back up with the
If I
guilt
can't-
eating
if
me
I can't
alive,
live, then no
and
one
that's
can.
when I heard it. "Jackson!" I turned around and my heart actually stopped.
fake.
Gia was running to me, braids
oh, I thought that
bouncing
was
and
her,
tears on
bro.
her face. I fell to my knees and held my arms open. She crashed into me and wrapped her little arms so tight around my neck I could barely breathe. But when I saw the smudged purple flower on my hand, I sobbed harder because I'd made it home and she was going to draw me a new one tomorrow. "Jackson, Jackson, I thought I lost you. Please, please, please don't leave me ever again.
Where's
I'm
the
here,
parents
Gia.
at? Where's your
I'm not
family?
going anywhere.
Yeah.
I promise."
What is
After a
between
while, I
life and
pulled
death?
back and looked at her
Where's she even
face,
come
and her
from?
braids were a mess, but it was her, my baby sister. I shakily whispered, "Let's go home," and grabbed her tiny hand, and we walked to the ambulance together. But as we climbed inside, I saw the big man's family and little girl's mom sobbing, squeezing her bunny. I realized I had survived the game, but I would never survive what it cost me.
Peak.